seems like only yesterday I was here to launch Avril'S last book of short stories, Journey into Love. And of course, since then, she's had a collection of poetry published too. When we were all at the FAW together, Avril used to say of some who I might have found quite irritating, she'd say to me, well, he or she is a late bloomer. And I think that at 95, Avril is not a late bloomer. She's more a perennial. She just keeps blossoming. Her creative writing goes back to her childhood, and she's enthused others through her days at the North Shore branch of the FAW and at our own Far South Coast branch, which she was instrumental in forming. And while some are content to look on in life, Avril's always been a participator. I heard her on radio last year talking about using her computer. Age can be an isolating experience when you're left behind in technological developments, but Avril is not about to let that happen to her. As well as being a participator, she both looks and listens to those who are taking life's journey with her. And I remember well my own intolerance of some budding writers. Avril could always see the potential and the need to nurture it. Everyone needs to be told that they're doing well, she said to me once. Her topic for writing in her early days was the experience of having twin daughters and coping with them and her other children, mostly alone, as Hugh was a sea captain and not around for much of the time. Her family grew up and presented her with all sorts of challenges that children can, and Avril's keen sense of humour served her well in the face of what some might have seen as calamities. As a mother, grandmother and great-grandmother, the wisdom that she was, I think, born with, but which has developed with her into her elder years, came to the fore, and she gave that wisdom with wit and tolerance again and again, and I expect she's still giving it when it's called for. Avril's stories tend to be about life's misfits and the challenges that they face. She knows that there really is just the moment that we're living in. Circumstances will change from day to day, and we must meet them as they rise without being judgmental. She meets the challenges with compassion, wit and humour. She can see both the dark side of life and its joyous alter ego. She has that rare ability to recognise that the small things in life add up to the big things. My mum used to apologise to my dad for chattering about the small things that made up her day, particularly towards the end of his life. But he said to her, don't ever apologise. These small things are the stuff of life, and I live to get home to you to listen to them. And Avril has that ability to take the small things in and record them. And through those small things, those fragments in time, pin down the very stuff of life. It was a lesson that she subtly passed on to many writers. The huge dramatic events in life are made up of countless fragments. Capture just one or two of them and you begin to put together the big picture. Go for the big picture and it shatters into fragments. For many years, she helped others see their writing come to fruition and get into print. With the force of Penelope behind her, the powers of Ginninderra Press, and the goodwill of all who have known and admired her over the years, Avril now sees her third book, A Fragment in Time, hit the shelves. I doubt that it will be her last. She was still adding stories long after it had gone to the publisher. I see a figure bent over the computer screen, absorbed in the characters she is creating, smiling at their foibles. Many congratulations, Avril.
Well, here I am, still around and still making speeches. And first of all, I must thank Anna. As she said, we go back a long, long way. I remember the days, one of the first days when Anna came to the writers' group with her mum, who was a beautiful poet. I have her book at home. Thank you, Anna, for those kind words. Now, this big gathering today has meant an awful lot of work for my keeper of the word, Penelope. And I have to also thank my daughter-in-law Felicity for leading me towards the cover of my book, The Dandelion Clock. And also I must thank Ian, is he still here?
There he is over there.
But using his skills so that I can stand up here, and we had the audio vision too. Now about the book just, my characters seem to drift into my head and they're all rather noisy. I have the characters of Mr. Percival. There's quite a few stories about Mr. Percival. Mr. Percival first came into my head over 50 years ago. And unbeknownst to me, he slumbered there until something or other, a phrase or a word or something, woke him up and I sat there and heard his stories, and they're in the book. The first story, A Fragment of Time, is a dream I had. I had the children try to work out the clues in the story, but they had to have a bit of help on that. And another story in the book, The Ironbark Demolition Squad, that came from a piece of writing on a shop window in a little country town in Queensland. They just come along. I have to say, the price of the book, the publisher's price was $18, but me, ever being a fixer, couldn't cope with that and the float. So the price is $20, but $2 of that is to go to one of my favourite people, the legacy people. I think you all know I'm a legacy widow. Strangely enough, I discovered that the stories are in the very modern genre. Today's readers like short stories, and they have a trick in the tale. I'm not going to say any more because I'm hanging on to the lectern here and really feeling 95 years old. Welcome to everybody.
I've chosen to read the dedication for this book, a love poem for Hugh, as well as a condensed version of the short story 10 Hours. A love poem for Hugh. Dear one, I'm sending you a hug while sitting on that patch of sand we named our own, hearing the waves ceaselessly call your name. A hug. Summer breeze warm, the curved loop of memory, etched in recall, sharpened through separation, blurred by tears. Dear one, I am sending you a hug, gift of love returned. 10 hours. Dossie Towns felt the warmth of the morning sun as she struggled to move. Teeth clenched, she pressed her elbows against the cold, tiled bathroom floor, but the pain in her leg forced her to give up. The silent house, with the background noise of distant traffic, offered no release. She must wait for help. Dossie felt a shiver of apprehension before making yet another ineffectual attempt to move. Breathless and exhausted, she faced the reality of a future separation from her bridge friends, her morning coffee group, those companions for her generation for whom she had shared the ups and downs of encroaching age. Alone, vulnerable, she sobbed as the midday sun rose higher, catching the roundness of the help button just out of reach, touching the top of the jacaranda tree seen through the window. The hours wore on. Dossie shivered. Evening shadows were beginning to move across the floor. Her strength seemed to have ebbed. Lying in the deepening darkness, she noticed a shadow in the corner. She watched as it seemed to move closer. Caught in a sudden memory of the shared love of long ago, she held out her arms. "James," she said, You've come for me at last. I've been waiting for you.
That's it. Oh.